Nick Pivetta seems like a lock to be a starting pitcher for the Boston Red Sox in 2024, but why might he be better out of the bullpen? You'll find out on today's Locked on Red Sox.
You are Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast, and I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed for free. And I always tell my friends, if it's free, you really have nothing to lose, so you might as well try it out. Start your day off the right way with Locked On, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Welcome to another episode of Locked on Red Sox, and happy Friday. Congratulations on officially making it to the end of the week. It's always the best feeling in the world when you have a long week that feels like it just dragged on and you finally made it to the end of that week. It was definitely one of those weeks for me. I was absolutely exhausted after last weekend. I did some traveling and got to see some friends I hadn't seen in a while, which was really nice, but then having to go back to work this week was definitely tough. So if you're like me at all and you're feeling exhausted, congratulations. It is the end of the week and happy Red Sox baseball day. The Red Sox officially do have a spring training game today. Very exciting against Northeastern. Hopefully they win this game, but it'll be good to see the guys out there again, see how everybody meshes, see where everybody's at in terms of their progress prior to opening day. The Red Sox do plan to make it a bullpen day in terms of the pitching staff, so they'll kind of move guys around and anticipate being able to see some different guys out there and kind of see the progress that Andrew Bailey has made so far working with these guys. So one of those pitchers who it's been a question mark really since the end of last season, whether he should be a starter or a reliever, is Nick Pivetta. I've been on the train for a while now that he should pitch out of the bullpen. There are others who would argue that he should still be a starter because when he was pitching out of the bullpen last year, he was completely fire, but then started pitching out of the rotation again, and it seems like he had been fixed. So it was almost like somebody did something to adjust something with his form when he was pitching out of the pen and was able to figure it out as a starter. I think that was more because he was hot. He was pitching really well out of the pen, and I think it says less about his ability as a starter, but more his ability to pitch well in shorter stints at a time. Pivetta in 2023 finished the season with a 4.04 ERA and a 10-9 record. He pitched in 38 games, 16 of which he had started. He also recorded one save and struck out 183 batters. Overall, those aren't bad numbers, but the difference between those numbers when he was pitching in relief versus when he was pitching as a starter are pretty significant. In his first 7 outings or so as a relief pitcher for Boston, he was pitching a lot better than he had as a starter. He had only allowed 4 runs with merely 1 earned for a .82 ERA in 11.0 innings in those first 7 outings of him pitching out of the pen. And that's pretty phenomenal. And also, he had gotten a lot more confident. Alex Cora even said that he seems to have developed a lot stronger of a resume of pitches. He was able to mix in a cutter and a slider that we didn't really see a lot of from him when he was pitching out of the rotation, and he wasn't any longer really just a two-pitch pitcher. He was able to add more to the bank. And his fastball was moving faster than ever. He was getting up more in the zone, and he was pitching with a little bit more conviction and a better tempo, looking a lot more confident with that fastball. He was able to clean up a few things mechanic-wise, and it really paid off for him coming out of the bullpen. And you have to wonder why that is. Is it because he feels confident pitching less innings at a time, or do you feel like it's because the Red Sox just weren't honing in on his weaknesses quickly enough? Either way, I don't think it's coincidental that he was having his best outings out of the bullpen. I truly do think that that's primarily where he belongs, and that's where he's going to thrive the most in a Red Sox uniform. As a starter, he owned a roughly 6.30 ERA in his first 8 starts of the season. So if you compare that 6.30 ERA over 8 starts to that minuscule .82 ERA out of the pen, I mean, that's a pretty big difference. He had posted a 2.63 ERA while recording 31 strikeouts and 24 relief innings. So once you started to let him pitch a little bit more out of the pen, obviously that ERA of a sub-1 wasn't going to last fully. I mean, it takes the best relievers in the world to do that. So 2.63 ERA over 24 relief innings is still very solid. And when you compare that number, it's a significant drop down from his numbers when he was starting. And why is that? Some pitchers just thrive better under pressure when they're in shorter stints, when they have to look and say, I need to deliver right now. Whereas when you're starting, if you have a rough first inning, you could bounce back from that and still have a good rest of the start. If you're pitching in relief and you're only pitching 2 or 3 innings at a time, you have to step up right away. There's way less room for error, and some pitchers like that better. And maybe with Pivetta, it was a little bit of a motivation problem, really being able to motivate himself enough when he was starting to focus from start to finish during that outing. And we've seen pitchers struggle with that for sure. I would argue that Garrett Whitlock is another one that falls into this category as somebody who isn't able to keep himself as focused during the length of a start, but has pitched very effectively out of Boston's bullpen in the time that he's been in a Red Sox uniform. So another thing about Pivetta that's interesting to note is in 2023, he averaged 3.15 walks per 9 innings and 3.66 strikeouts to walk ratio. So he's striking out about 3 times more batters than he's walking, which is definitely a promising sign. His K percentage overall was a 31.2, and his walk percentage was an 8.5. So he has that ratio going for him. The K to walk percentage is 22.7% higher rate in which he's striking out hitters. Those are good qualities for pitchers. You definitely want somebody who's going to have good control and isn't going to walk as many guys and is going to be able to get that strikeout rate up. Now, throughout the season, those numbers kept increasing. What does that say to me? That once he started pitching out of the bullpen, he was able to gain more control of that strike zone and strike out more guys and walk less guys. That's what it screams to me, is he was able to become more effective in that way as he got more confident with the pitches that he was displaying. He was able to strike out more players. And as Cora had alluded to, once he added another pitch into his resume, he was able to look more effective on any of them because he wasn't only relying on 2 pitches anymore. And that's a problem that Tanner Houck has had for a while too, is heavily relying too much on 2 pitches and not being that effective with a third defined pitch, that it causes him to only be able to see the lineup twice on average before he starts to struggle. And if he can develop a third pitch very effectively and quickly, he could succeed more out of the rotation. It's just a matter of, does he have that in him? And Pivetta, now that he has that in him, are the chances there of him being able to succeed out of the rotation? Absolutely. But I think at this point, with where he's at, he should be pitching out of the bullpen because he seems more confident there. And I am worried that him as a starter he'll be able to lose some of that confidence and it'll cause him to not be as effective. So, in terms of my expectations for him for 2024, he's likely going to go in as a starter. He's going to be starting a spring training game early next week. So, presumably, he's set in stone to be a starting member of this pitching staff. And I don't expect him to be that great. I think he'll be the number 5. He'll be up and down. He's not going to meet the expectations that people think he's going to. I think people are expecting the Nick Pivetta that showed up in those last couple starts of the season after they moved him back to the rotation from being a reliever. And I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think he'll be a very average starter at best. He'll get the reps in. He'll start to struggle when he's getting deeper and deeper into the order. And then I wouldn't be surprised if they end up moving him back to the bullpen at some point and trying somebody else out in the rotation. So my expectations are not very high. I haven't seen him pitch well enough in the rotation for me to feel confident that he can do that now. Yes, pitching out of the pen might have fixed him, but has it fixed him enough to the point where he could translate that over into being a starter longer term? That's the real question that we're approaching opening day with when it comes to Pivetta, and only time will tell. But the Red Sox have continued to add depth to their pitching staff by bringing back a familiar face, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more next. Have you ever wanted unlimited cloud backup for Macs, PCs, and businesses? Backblaze is the place for you to have that confirmation that you won't feel like you're ever filling up all of your space and don't have enough. I know for me, my problem is always that my phone's telling me you don't have enough storage to back up this phone right now. And it's super annoying. And my laptop even too keeps popping up with messages to upgrade my iCloud because I don't have enough space. You can avoid all of this with Backblaze. Backblaze makes backing up and accessing your data astonishingly easy. Protect all the data on your machines automatically. Easy to deploy across multiple workstations with various deployment options. Add-on enterprise control includes granular access permissions, advanced single sign-on, group management controls, and compliance support. Protect data with a centrally managed admin console. All of this stuff comes for just $99 a year with Backblaze. No risk-free trial at backblaze.com/lockedonmlb. Plenty of time to upload and download some files. I'm telling you, Backblaze will be an absolute lifesaver, especially if you live on your computer and use it for basically your entire life, which is the case for me. So check it out today. You also should check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, which is also now available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. It's very exciting for Locked On. It's a great way for you to get caught up in everything going on in sports without having to rely on scrolling through Twitter. So head to Locked On Sports Today. I promise you won't be disappointed. What has been disappointing, though, is certainly the Red Sox offseason. And while they haven't made a ton of major moves, they have continued to add to their depth. They brought back a familiar face in Joely Rodriguez. Julian McWilliams of the Boston Globe tweeted yesterday that Rodriguez was at the Red Sox spring facility in Fort Myers. And then Chris Cotillo from Mass Live confirmed that he is in fact there. He's in camp on a minor league deal. So the Red Sox did bring him back, but unfortunately he didn't have enough of an opportunity to pitch last year because he was suffering multiple injuries, primarily oblique, shoulder, and hip injuries. He's 32 years old. He only pitched 11 innings last year. And basically those injuries combined to result in 3 different stints on the IL for him. So not a great go. He posted a 6.55 ERA in his short time on the mound, striking out 27.5% of his opponents against an 11.8% walk rate and 45.2% ground ball rate. I mean, striking out only 27.5% of batters and walking 11.8%. That's pretty tough. That's a tough split. That means he was walking guys at a lot more of a rate than some of the other guys in the pitching staff were, and he wasn't getting as many swings and misses as he should. It tells me that his control was off and his fastball velocity was not very high. And these are things that he can get back. The injuries definitely have to be the biggest factor in this to consider. He's not going to go out there having 3 separate stints on the IL in the same season and be able to bring ace caliber stuff. It's just not going to happen. It really wasn't a strong year overall for him, but he has posted far better numbers over the 3 preceding seasons in his return from an excellent 2-year stint in the Japan League. From 2020 to 2022, Rodriguez pitched 109 and 1/3 frames between the Rangers, Yankees, and Mets, working to a 4.28 ERA with even more encouraging secondary marks. He fanned 25.5% of his opponents in that time and generated ground balls at a huge 55.7% clip. So if he can get back to generating a lot of ground balls, as long as he stays healthy in 2024, he could certainly be effective for Boston. His 10.3% walk rate was still a couple ticks north of the league average, but the lefty offered an enticing blend of missed bats and grounders while excelling at keeping the ball in the park. He averaged only giving up about 0.58 home runs per 9 innings. So he had a lot going for him in terms of not giving up the long ball a lot because he's generating a lot of those ground balls. So that's definitely a plus for him that I'm looking at when it comes to moving forward with the Boston Red Sox. Can he contribute and is he able to be effective? Now, they signed him to a minor league deal. That's not to say he'll stay in the minors. A minor league deal means we didn't see enough of you in 2023 to feel confident starting you off on the major league roster, which absolutely makes sense. But you can come and try to prove yourself in the minors, and then we can see if the opportunity is there for you to eventually get called up and contribute out of the Red Sox bullpen. Because if you have a guy who was injured that many times during the season, it's not fair to hold that season against him, but it's also not fair to your organization to put all the trust in a guy like that. And yes, maybe he can get back to where he was before, and he could be a back-end reliever for Boston if he can get his stuff back to where it was. So that's definitely promising. And the Red Sox don't have a problem with left-handed arms out of the bullpen. Brennan Bernardino had a really good season last year. He pitched 50 1/3 innings of 3.20 ERA ball as a 31-year-old rookie. And then they also have Joe Jakes, Brandon Walter, and Chris Murphy. So Joely joins Lucas Letke as a veteran southpaw who will compete for a job in the bullpen. All these other guys have gotten opportunities, still small sample size with some of them. So Rodriguez has the opportunity, but I'm thinking they'll start him off in the bullpen in the minors at least for a little bit just to get his feet wet again with being fully healthy, because he has to prove that he has the depth to be able to pitch the length of a season again, because a lot of guys, when they miss some time with injuries, it takes their arm a while to get back into the mode of being able to pitch effectively for the full length of the season. And especially if you're a bullpen guy, you might be pitching a lot more often than a starter who pitches every 5 days, because you're pitching less in each stint that you're out on the mound. So for him, he is going to have to get used to having that arm stamina again of being able to last through the whole season. So that's something I'm looking for from him as we progress through spring training and into opening day. Do the Red Sox have options? Sure, but there's plenty of opportunity for guys to really step up and showcase what they can do to get those spots out of the pen. I mean, you have established guys like Chris Martin, Kenley Jansen, Josh Winkowski, who may be a starter in 2024. Who knows, really? Those guys are all going to pitch very well out of the pen, most likely. They're the guys who are proven, who have shown a lot of what they can do. I have high hopes again for Bernardino. But the rest of the bullpen spots are very much still up for grabs. And while they're still trying to figure out how they want to handle the situation with Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock, this is a great opportunity for other guys to say, hey, I'm here and I can step up and be a pitcher who's solid for your bullpen. So Rodriguez definitely falls into the mix of those guys who will be fighting for a spot on the roster come opening day. Is the potential there? Absolutely, but he does need to bump down on the walks and regain some control of the mound and be able to focus more on getting more swings and misses. But it's great that he doesn't allow the home run ball a lot. That's a great thing to have as a trait if you're going to pitch at Fenway. So we'll see how he does. I definitely felt badly for him last year because he got the short end of the stick with not being able to pitch a lot due to his injuries. So we'll have to see what happens with him in 2024. But coming up, speaking of 2024, we're 34 days away, and an absolutely massive player was the greatest tour number 34 in Boston. You might already know, but it's coming up next. How big are you into sports betting? Have you always been interested in getting more into it? Or are you such an expert on it that you want to continue to win more money? Either way, whatever your level is, FanDuel is the place for you. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. I'll tell you, my fiance has been pretty new to the sports betting game recently, but he's won so much money with it, so you can too if you check out FanDuel today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. But it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV Channels app. Both options are great. Both options will give you our 24/7 streaming channel that we have launched. We're the first ever network to have this. All of our local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every league, will be there to keep you up in everything going on in sports. So if you don't want to have to worry about missing anything, subscribe to Locked On Sports today. We are 34 days from opening day. That'll be here before you know it. And the Red Sox start the season on the West Coast, that 10 p.m. start time. So get ready for that first opening series of the season. It's definitely brutal. I mean, I wish the Red Sox had a day game. I always have associated the Red Sox with playing in the afternoon on opening day. However, I will say at least they're getting a West Coast trip over with early in the season. Those trips are rough. And, with the way the schedule is made now, they play more games on the West Coast than they used to, more trips out there. But at least they're getting one of them over with so that hopefully we don't have to deal with these 10 p.m. starts for a minute after that. But 34 days is not far. And a man who I know is very excited about it is an absolute legend himself. War number 34 in Boston. That's right, Big Papi, David Ortiz. Just an absolute Red Sox legend with hitting heroics that fueled the team to 3 championships. He just had this big moment in 2004 when the Red Sox were trailing the Yankees 3-0 in the ALCS, and he saved the day with walk-off hits on consecutive days and also belted a huge home run in Game 7. I mean, how much can you really say about him to do it justice? You really can't. Hall of Famer, 10-time All-Star, home run derby champion, 3-time World Series champ, 7-time Silver Slugger, World Series MVP, and ALCS MVP. I mean, the list of accolades goes on. He finished his career with a .286 batting average and 541 home runs, over 8,640 at-bats. He recorded 2,472 hits and scored 1,419 runs. He also drove in 1,768 batters and stole 17 bases, surprisingly. He had an on-base percentage of .380 and a slugging percentage of .552, and his OPS was .931. I mean, these are just absolute crazy numbers. Very much deserved to be in the Hall of Fame like he was. He finished in the top 5 of the AL's MVP voting in his first 5 seasons with the Boston Red Sox. He averaged 41 home runs and 128 RBIs, leading the AL twice in the latter category and setting this team's single season record of 54 home runs in 2006. I mean, who doesn't love Big Papi? I actually had the pleasure of meeting him at Winter Weekend, and he was awesome, just so great, always interacting with fans I see at various events, always jumping on volunteering to go to things like meet and greets and meeting fans and spending time with them because he's an absolute icon in the baseball world. And if you're a Red Sox fan, he will always be that guy you associate as being the face of the franchise. And not to mention that he basically carried the Red Sox during that 2013 World Series run. I mean, that team had no business winning at all, but his heroics and just his fire that he displayed during that season led the Red Sox to do miraculous things at the end of 2013. I mean, it's crazy. And to do all of this as almost exclusively a DH, it's actually crazy to think about all the accolades that he put together. He became regarded as one of the greatest designated hitters of all time. He always will be. He received the Edgar Martinez Award as the league's top DH 8 times and set major league records for career home runs, 485, RBIs, 1,569, and hits, 2,192 as a DH. He posted 10 seasons each with 30 home runs and 100 RBIs and batted 300 or better 7 times. After a drop in his offensive numbers from 2008 to 2012, he enjoyed a strong resurgence in his last 4 seasons and had one of his best years in his final campaign, leading the AL in doubles, RBIs, and slugging percentage, once again leading the team to the postseason. Upon his retirement, Ortiz ranked 6th in AL history with 541 home runs, 5th in doubles with 632, and 9th in RBIs with 1,768. Regarded as one of the greatest clutch hitters of all time, he had 11 career walk-off home runs during the regular season and 2 during the 2004 postseason, the first of which was the one that clinched the AL Division Series. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility in 2022, and I actually was at his induction ceremony, and it was such a cool experience seeing him talk to Red Sox Nation and just be there with a group of people who just appreciate and love the game of baseball. And even people who weren't Red Sox fans who were there just appreciated hearing from him and just respect his game and just how good of a player he actually really was. I mean, there's really not enough you could say about him to really do his career justice. And it's just crazy to think about the fact that he played for any other team, because I'll never associate him with any other team, like starting his professional career with the Seattle Mariners, spending a few years with the Twins, and then going to Boston. I mean, he is a true Boston Red Sox for life. There's just no denying that. He had a chance encounter with Pedro at a restaurant in the Dominican Republic after his release from the Twins. And then this basically fueled the Red Sox to sign him. Martinez remembered the home run he had given up to Ortiz in August 2002. And then that's when it happened. It's just crazy to think about the fact that Pedro is the reason that the Boston Red Sox got him. But he had such a storied career. He can always go down as one of the best players of all time. On November 18th, 2015, his 40th birthday, he actually announced it on the website The Players Tribune that he would retire following the 2016 season. But I mean, what a career, really. And then he became an analyst. In October 2017, he joined MLB on Fox as a part-time sports analyst for the coverage of the 2017 World Series. He returned in late 2019 as a full-time studio analyst. And then in 2018, he hosted a podcast, David Ortiz, the Big Papi story, alongside Michael Chiklis. The series had 4 episodes and discussed Ortiz's life and career. I mean, it never gets old really thinking back on his career and reminiscing about his stats and all that he accomplished as a Major League Baseball player. He is a true Red Sox and baseball icon, the face of Boston sports forever. I will never think of the Red Sox without thinking about David Ortiz. That would just be really weird. So Big Papi, an icon, best player in Red Sox history to wear number 34. And there you have it. With 34 days to go, will the Red Sox make any other moves and make David Ortiz even more excited for the season? Probably not, but we'll see. Just have to keep the faith, like I always say. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.